Welcome to the English Way. This week I have the pleasure of talking to Momus Najmi, commentator and eye watcher on the Nation extraordinaire. Momus, would you like to give people a quick introduction on who you are before we get into the fate of the nation?
Yeah, my name's Momus Namji, and I'm a writer and podcaster now. I have a channel on YouTube, Spotify, and Rumble, the World of Momus Podcasts. I also write books, and I'm interested in history and mythology and reviving Britain back to what it used to be. A
Oh,
bit
but
about yeah, a bit about my life. I was born in Kuwait in the Middle East. I lived there till I was in my mid-teens. Then I moved to Pakistan because my parents are from Pakistan. I lived there for 9 years, and then I came to England around 14 or so years ago in 2010. I used to be a Muslim a long time ago, and I left that and became an ex-Muslim now. But I don't really define myself as an ex-Muslim because I'm too indifferent to Islam. It's not something that defines me. So I don't want it to define me. I don't want it myself to be defined as ex-Muslim. I'm just me. So yeah, that would be short and sweet introduction to myself, I guess.
yeah, I didn't know that you'd spent that time in Kuwait. I knew that you'd had some time in Pakistan. So,
Mm.
but I also thought you came here much earlier. So when you came over, what was the biggest difference you noticed between England and these other countries?
Um, in Kuwait, when I grew up over there, so I had a different view of England or how it was because I was consuming a lot of English media, a lot of British media and literature and stuff like that, and that's why in history and everything else, which is why I love Britain from the start and wanted to be a part of Britain. But I didn't have the age to actually travel at that time on my own or like become British on my own. Um, when I came to Britain, or rather, when I came to London, I realized that the Britain of my dreams did not exist anymore. And that was shocking. That was very shocking because I came and to London and I hardly found any English. And that's not to say like, I'm disparaging of ethnicities or stuff like that. It's just to say that I didn't find English culture, right, among people. I didn't find that much English mannerisms in people, only in people who pretended that they were some part of English or British, but you could see in their makeup, in their culture and stuff that it was far from it. It was a bastardization of it, maybe, but not it. You know, um, this is what I found. Like the difference was that obviously it was far. I found it to be far poorer in that regard to Kuwait. Even though I didn't agree with Kuwait, Kuwait actually everything works over there. People know who they are. You might disagree with them, but they know who they are and they are proud of it and they keep to it, right? In Pakistan, obviously, things were you couldn't say anything, right? So that's a good difference that I found that I could actually, at least at that time, when hate speech laws weren't there, I could say stuff that I wanted, right? So that freedom is what I liked. But it's not as if I discovered the West when I came to the West. The West was always in my heart from before. When I came to the West, I found West to not be of the West anymore. And this is why, that what angered me actually. Because Britain is a historic country. Right? It's a historic nation of people. And for people of this nation to let themselves selves down this much, to dishonor the memories of their ancestors, and let could be so disconnected with their traditions and heritage and culture actually wounds me to see, because it's not how a people should be. And yeah, I would say like that would be the biggest difference that I found, that a country that has so much to be proud of is resisting the urge to do so and actually denigrating itself.
Yeah, I always just say that every culture is needed.
Hmm.
Everything that is in the world is meant to be in the world, and we're not meant to erase one culture for another. So I
Hmm.
was having this conversation with my son this morning, And I was saying, you know, I don't want, for instance, let's say Nigeria, I don't want Nigeria to be full of displaced peoples and the Nigerian
Mm,
culture to disappear, because then there's something missing from the world that can't be brought back. And we know this through Russia. You know, the Russian culture almost completely disappeared. There's very little
mm,
authentic Russian culture
yeah.
left. In everything, you know, I'm quite a spiritual person, and I think the divine created everything for a reason, and he
Mm,
created all the cultures, and all the cultures have um, a the highest expression of that culture. And this is what we're
mm,
supposed to be doing at this point, is like restoring the highest expression of that culture. You look through
mm,
every, at some point they achieved a cultural zenith, and we're supposed to be holding the line, right? So where we're supposed to be at this point in history. And I think every culture and each person, you know, this is why I called my channel The English Way. It's about the spirituality of the English. And I think everybody in every culture should be thinking, well, what is my role, not only within the spiritual world, but what is my role within my nation? What characteristics at the highest, purest, and best expression is my nation meant to express?
mm.
Because all nations, even England, are falling into negative expressions of their culture, and some nations more than others. And I think the people themselves, the good people within these nations, need to be kind of restoring the balance and bringing forth that goodness. And it seems like the last 50 years, the emphasis has been on the negative and the destructive side of nations' characteristics. And I just don't think that's good. But I also believe that I have a right to not only request but demand that my own nation's culture remains intact. And I don't think
Yeah, but
that's
that's the work of the internationalists. That's the work of the globalists, right? Because that's what they want to do. That's
Hmm.
how they achieve their goals,
No,
homogenizing people. Sorry, what you
it's
said?
no borders and no countries. It's
Yeah,
communism.
exactly. Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's homogenizing people, So, and that means people have no roots. No one has any roots on, and nobody has the opportunity, like myself, to lay down new roots as well. And those sort of people become easy to manipulate, easy to control.
Yes, I think if you're rootless, it is very easy to uproot,
Hmm.
and to give it the false soil and the false nourishment.
Hmm.
Opposite. I know you know, 2 points in my life where my cultural identity was deepened was one was going back to visit the historic family in Ireland, and then the other was tracing my family origin back to the Angles and to really the Germanic root, which is the true root of European culture. It's not Latin; it's Germanic. Whether it was the Frankish, even the Vikings absorbed the Germanics into their hierarchy, and that is the root of European culture. And I think those 2 points for me just it felt like the roots just went deep at those points, and a lot of things kind of made sense. And I think you have to dig into the origin of your people and find out, well, what is the origin? Like I had a conversation with a Indian man at a party recently, at my sister's house, about the fact that we had a shared ancestor in the Aryans, and he was
Mm.
stunned because he'd been taught about the Aryans as a child, but he didn't know that we knew about the Aryans. And I was like, yeah, it's a shared. We have a shared ancestor. We have shared commonality. We're effectively cousins. There is something that unites us really deep, and it's almost like all those deep bonds are being severed and covered in earth, so that we can't pull together against this communistic globalist agenda. You know?
Yeah. And the thing is, that's how we come together, right? So realizing that we all have interconnected roots, but that doesn't mean that we homogenize,
No,
that
exactly.
that we have become different trees, but we all work the same and we all need the same nourishments, and we're connected in that way. That but they need to homogenize people is actually more divisive than people actually taking pride in their own cultures, but still maintaining you know uh peaceful friendships with one another and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's like respect. You know,
Mm,
I have a birthright to mock the Scots, the Irish, and the Welsh, and they have a birthright to mock me. And that's just the way that goes.
Yeah.
When we drink, we bring out the national stereotypes and hit each other over the head with it. You know,
Yeah.
it's just what it is.
Mhm.
And it's kind of, there should be that jocular existence where you can laugh at each other and you go, oh,
Mm.
that's the English, that's the bloody French, lazy, dear me.
Yeah.
There should be that kind of, oh, he's just English, he's uptight, you know. We should have that, or he's an American, he's loud, what a surprise, you know. That's part of relieving that tension in a non-kinetic way, the ability to
Mm.
laugh at each other and to take that humor, and you basically you turn it into love. That's what happens
Mm.
when you're
Mm.
in that situation. Like that humor gets turned to love. It's like a kinship.
Mm.
And if you deny that kinship, then yes, you're going to get all of these the tensions, because there's no release, there's no valve. When you can't, laugh at this person and laugh at that person and share that humor, then it does, the tension builds. It's not good. So we've been through some pretty, let's put the assassination attempt to one side. We've been through some pretty wild times in the last few years, and we've recently had an election here in the United Kingdom, which is quite not what it seems. So
Mm.
Labour's obviously won the election. They've got this huge majority of seats in the House, but with a tiny majority of the population voting for them.
Yeah.
I think I worked it out. They've got just over 1/3 of the people who voted for them, but
Mm.
just 50% of the eligible voting population voted for them. That means that roughly 1/6 of the country voted for Labour. Now, JD Vance was on cited recently as saying that the Labour Party is the Islamist party. We know that despite the fact, and this is what makes it mental, they gave no manifesto in the election, but people voted for them anyway. So they are historically the party of high taxes. They are historically the party of putting the welfare state and the administrative state on steroids. They historically always crash the economy. I think the economy has already crashed, so I think they're going to make it worse because I don't think they have the capacity. As you, somebody who's lived in other countries, you've lived here for what, 15, 16 years?
Yeah, 14, 15 years, yeah.
As you look at this country, what in your mind right now is the state of this nation?
Um, well, Labor are only doing what they do, so I don't think so that should be a surprise. People who vote for them um probably need to seek some mental health support now. Unless that's what they want. Unless that's what they want, then that's fine. And I guess like because seeing the number of their votes, the percentage of people who are actually voting for them, it would seem the people who are voting for them actually want what Labor is offering, a socialist utopia. So it is a socialist, project that they're going to run. The amendments that they want to make within the British constitutions moves it towards socialism, and that will be hard to take away once they have got that embedded. Um, Tory party got what they deserved. Uh, but I don't think so. They have still learned the lesson. I think so. They're still gonna plod along. Um, Reform Party, like I am in very much two minds about them. I don't think so. They are the solution. Because they have populist point of views, but they don't have embedded policies to enact their point of views. And I think so. Their point of views change from time to time, dependent on what what the public sort of wants to hear rather than what the public needs, like regardless of what they want to hear, right? Sometimes we need certain things but we're not aware of it, and that's the job of diplomats to find out, so and to enact those things. So I don't think so they have that capacity or the desire. I think that they just want to merge into Tories, and people can get angry at me all they want about it, but I know that that will happen. That's the desire. And if that doesn't happen within a year, when the Tory leadership takes place, which will take place within a year, I think so. And if Farage is not able to get into the Tory party that way, then maybe he will revert to actually operating reform as a political party, because right now it's just being operated as a business. I see other smaller parties, Liberal Democrats, have done what I expected them to do. They just did a whole non-political campaign, and they just took the disenfranchised people who were just just voted out of nothing, and they more than doubled their seats. We got independents rising, mostly the Muslim ones. That was obvious. So there's nothing that has happened that has surprised me. You
No,
know, the state of the political scene right now is that nobody is who they seem to be. The public does not have a political voice. And also that if reform's voice was being heard properly, and if reform was what they're portraying themselves to be, the voice of the people, then more than 54% of the people would have come out to vote. But that shows that only if 54% of the voting population has actually come out to vote. That means they are not interested in anything that is on offer that much. So the nation is rejected. There is no representation of the nation right now, or the public right now, in any of the political parties. I think so. There's some smaller political parties that are going to make headways going forward. Parties like SDP has air of some people. Party like UKIP are in the process of rejuvenating themselves, and other parties and such. But I don't think so. Again, in this first past the post, I don't think so. They will end up making a huge difference. They can become protest parties and be there as as pressure groups rather than anything else. So the state, as I see, is that there is no solutions in politics. That has been my idea for past 2 to 3 years, that there's no solution in politics and people need to stop looking towards politics to find solutions. The solution is first in creating an environment and revival of culture, out of which the right politics will come out and the right politicians will come out. Because there's a lot of politicians right now who are in these parties that actually do want a cultural revival, but they're being stopped by their political leaders from doing so, because it's not culturally appropriate to say it, or it's not politically correct to say it. Even parties like Reform and so on and so on. Because the media will have them and stuff. So there is no environment for people to be courageous, to speak what they are actually thinking, what's on their mind, right? So we can't have any politics, because if we can't speak these things, if our politicians cannot speak these things, then they cannot promote the policies or come up with the policies that are needed. So as far as I see it, no elections will matter unless we fix the culture and make it okay for people to be able to say what they want to say.
yeah, I think removing political correctness is a must. I think a lot of people don't understand it. It's not politeness. Political
No.
correctness has been forced into people to make you think that it's polite, and it's not politeness. It is politically correct. And
Mm.
politics changes. Therefore, the ability of what you're allowed to speak about and not speak about changes depending on the political will. And it was something that was actually pretty much invented and perfected by Mao. Like, we should just reject political correctness across the board. It's evil. And I think I agree, the culture thing. So the way I view it, tell me if you agree, is everything to me starts in the spirit realm, starts in the spiritual world. It has to be spiritual first. From that comes forth all matter. Culture, as I see it, is the intercession between the spiritual expression of the individual and the land. The land, if you like, creates the mythos. The land speaks. It is the myth. It has its own living thing. As the spirituality of the person interacts with the land, the mythos speaks to, and out of that comes forth a culture. I completely agree, and I would go further and say what we have to do is connect to the spiritual root first, and out of that will come it's like an eternal, inexhaustible wellspring, right? That can just come and come and come. And I think once they understand that, and they're trying to solve things with politics, which is several steps downstream. Politics, in my mind, to the level that it is in society now is an expression of a broken society, because it shouldn't be this all pervading. If you would truly want to follow the divine structure, then it's monarchy, it's emperor, it's not political, because the heavens go to a single point. So the monastic structure, the monarchist structure, or the empirical structure, is a replication of the divine structure, right? Because you have the creator, and then everything stems out from there, and it goes from there, and then the heavenly hosts, and etc., 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 just gets broader and broader until you reach this realm. And politics is just supposed to be essentially the administration mechanism to assist this divine mechanism. And it's really in the last 100 years been made to be this all pervading, and it's generally under the influence of Marxists, who are your globalists and capitalists. They've completely been sucked in. It's been this all pervading thing where even children in school are being taught politics. Children in school should have nothing to do with their world. It didn't when I was a kid. Like, my son's getting told that the Reform Party are like the Nazis and things like this, and it's like, what? And he actually said it, Dad, my teacher's lefties. But it's spiritual, and you can see this in the essence of Marx, which is saying, move away from this righteous spiritual thing here. We'll give you a new name called atheism, but what you really worship is me and my devilish doctrine. And so the antithesis, whatever the opposite of Marx is, which is the righteous spirituality and the righteous faiths, that is the kryptonite. Nationalism, in the spiritual sense, is the kryptonite to this movement. They can't abide by it. This is why they hate our flags.
Yeah.
They'll put the flag of a minority against a majority or powerful country to destabilize that country. But in essence, once they've done that, they'll ban all the flags, right? So they hate the national flag because it is their kryptonite. They hate national pride because it is their kryptonite. They hate spirituality. They hate belief in the divine and the creator because it is their kryptonite. It destroys them. And I think England was founded on religious, well, not religious. They were founded on spiritual principles. Like, you go and read Alfred writing How to Govern the Nation. You go and read the Magna Carta, which I have somewhere. It's coming from a highly transcendent spiritual point of view. And I think we have to dig into this, because this is the answer.
I think so. No, I think so. There's like two main expressions of politics as I see it. Like, I'm no expert in this field, but as I see it, there's two main expressions. One is the administration part of it, that we are administering the world of men with the divine will of the God, right? And the other expression of it is in that we are God now, right? And we decide. It's the people's rights to choose how they want to live, right? Now, I don't know at this point which is the right way forward, which is the best way forward. Is it like to separate it both, keep the realm of God separate from the realm of men? That could be that seems to be the prevailing answer as well. I don't know, but I want to go a bit, even a step behind, back to what you're saying about connecting to the spiritual world, right? I want to create a will first, right? So I want to create an environment first. I think so. We need to create an environment first where these things can be thought about without stigmatization of them, right? So we're not even at that stage yet. So I know people are impatient because they're seeing their country being destroyed, and it hurts, right? But I think so this hasn't been done in a year. It hasn't been done in 5 years. It has done in, over years and years and years and years, and it will take years and years and years to undo it as well. So we have to decide, like, whether we're trying to save the country for ourselves, for our children, or our grandchildren, right? So I think so we should have that aspect that we're trying to save the country for our grandchildren and great grandchildren, so that we have that long-term view to counter the long march to the institution, to reverse it in that way. But I think so we first need to create an environment where everyone of every different thoughts can come together and start thinking what's in our best interest. How best do we reorganize ourselves? Uh, is it working? Is how we organizing ourselves currently working or not? Because I don't think so democracy works if only 54% of the people come out to vote. I don't think so that's how democracy works, unless everyone is mandated to come out and vote. I don't think so there's any point of democracy. And in the climate where people are not coming out in majority to vote, I would not want to push for proportional representation as well, because that would mean even more disastrous stuff, right? So there's so many different things to it. I think so. First, first we need to create an environment, because right now we don't have the environment. Rather, whether we talk about the political left or political right, which are false uh, narratives, anyways, to me, like they don't represent anything. Whether we say woke or anti-woke, there is no environment in both of those places to be able to talk openly, right? They both shut each other out, and they both shut everyone out. It's total obedience on all sides, which I think so is restricting people. So I think so first order is to create an environment, create the will in people, the will to actually converse, the will to actually want to do something, the will to actually live, because people are not living, they're just surviving, and they're okay with surviving and stuff. A willingness for people to be humans again, right? Because we're not being humans, we're being human bots. We want to be told what to do. We're not, we are not living to our potential as human beings. And that doesn't mean that our potential is not measured by progress, or technological progress. That's not our potential. That is something that we can do, but are we living as the best human beings right now? We are not, because we are not orientated properly. But I think so, like, I don't want to enforce what I want on people. I want self actualization for people to occur, self realization to occur. So I want to create an environment where these things can happen, and people can debate it, can converse it, can argue with each other, and just thrash it out between themselves, what it means to be English, what it means to be British, what it means to be humans, what it means to be Christians, whether we want to be Christians or we don't want to be Christians, right? Whatever it might be, because even now spiritually 55 or more percent of the population does not is atheist. So on minority, like, so Christianity has become a minority, so a minority cannot exert its pressure on majority anyways. So these are the many things that people need to discuss, I think so. But we need an open environment, an open platforms, an environment where people can actually express themselves without fear of losing their jobs, uh, having to be anonymous online, scared what their neighbors might say. We are already living in a communist hell, whether woke or anti-woke. On the other side of it, it's as villainous when anti-woke come for you, right? So they want to exact their will on others as well, without any discussion, without any negotiations, without any compromise as well. So it's both sides that I have a problem with.
So how do we go about creating this? Because I agree, we need to be able to have. I work in hospitality a lot, and you tend to have these conversations when people have had about 4 or 5 drinks. It's the English nature. And a lot of that, particularly if you're not from the country, we haven't researched the history, it's because we killed half the nation over this. We had a civil war
Mm,
in half the nation, but we lost. It was very traumatic, and it's in the English psyche. So we tend to discuss these things, politely or quietly, and typically after a few drinks, if it's not a really funny conversation, it tends to turn to God, and that's just the English, because they have that natural yearning within them.
mm.
But how do we create this environment where we can start having these open dialogues and create, essentially, it's like creating a fertile land, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. I think so. What people like Tommy Robinson, Lawrence Fox, and everyone else, and they've included me in there as well, are doing with the cultural movement, um, that a lot of people have wanted. I had wanted, a lot of other people had wanted for a very long time, gathering people in numbers and showing strength in numbers and showing that we are for something rather than against something. The next rally that is happening on the 27th of July, I think so that creates an environment that's a step towards it. Um, and we need more of that. But I think so we need people to be active in it, right? So we need people to be involved. What I don't want is for people to sit back and let others do their work, because that's what happened all the time. Even during the COVID time, that's you would have noticed that happen. They wouldn't say anything, right? They just want to go on their holidays and stuff, so they'll take the jabs if they want to. But they want you to fight for them, right? They want you to take the risks. I had to take the risk. I had to voice my opinions. I had my, problems at work and whatnot, but that needs to stop first. It has to come, that environment can only be created if there's a personal change in each person. People need to make that personal change. They need to stop looking for saviors, right? And they need to stop ignoring these things as if they're not important, as if they don't go out to vote, because people think if they don't go out to vote, you you're still not safe from the consequences of who the minority votes for, right? It's not as if like you can show your card, hey, I didn't vote, so these laws don't apply to me. No, those laws will apply to you as well. You have forgone your civic duties, your personal responsibilities. Doesn't mean yet you won't bear the consequences of it. So I think so. Even before we create the environment, people have to create the environment within themselves, the change within themselves, within their family, within their extended family, within the community, and that's how it grows. But this cultural movement is trying to show people that you can do it. So we need more of this sort of stuff as well, just to encourage people, you know, but my message would be, even within that culture movement, my message would be change yourself, start changing yourselves, because that's what's needed. Nobody's stopping you from reading a book. Nobody's stopping you from educating yourself. Nobody's stopping you from, not leading a better life. Nobody's stopping you from not having a healthier family. Nobody's stopping you from going to the church. You are stopping yourself from doing that. You are breaking up your family, right? You are not investing yourself in the culture of your own people. You are the ones who are not reading up on these things. So there are a lot of things that people need to take personal responsibility for, and I think so that's where it starts.
Yeah, I would agree. I've always said that people look for a savior. And look, I think in a spiritual sense, there is a savior. But I
But
think,
they forget about that savior.
yeah. I think in terms of the mortal realm, you have to save yourself first, because what happens is not a savior, but a leader. But the leader has to have a vacuum to walk into. There
Yeah.
has to be something for him to walk into to lead. And you find this in America, everyone thinks Trump came along and changed it. And he didn't. It's the Tea Party back in 2004, I think. Then
Hmm.
the Christians realized, hang on, the country's going the wrong way. They thought they got the vote in 2012,
Hmm.
realized not enough people. So they got on it, prayer rallies, strengthened their numbers, did more community prayer. They did prayer marathons. Like, then the Republicans themselves, the grassroots, MAGA came later. Trump came in when he saw there was something worth winning, because it wasn't there previously, but it took them over a decade to
Yeah.
ignite that. Now, I don't think
So
it'll,
that's the thing. Personal change creates an environment, and out of that environment will come a leader. That leader, if it comes before the personal change and before the environment, will just be ignored.
yeah,
That's how it happens, you
well, that's
know.
happened with Nigel for years,
Yeah,
there. And it's not that that leader is the savior, it's that you took the steps, God gave you that will, you took the steps to save yourself.
yeah.
you manifested directly what he's impressing upon you, then the change can happen. But if you don't carry out his will, then it can't happen. It's impotent. So yeah, I completely agree. We have to do that. I think the thing with Tommy and this movement, and I'm really glad he did, and I couldn't believe that he went and did it, for where he's come from. I think it was incredible, but we need that pressure group.
Yeah.
You need that external thing that hold, like, let's just say Nigel grasps a hold of what we want and does form policy. It does become a political rather than a sloganistic thing. And he certainly has the capacity. He's got the
But
intelligence.
he needs to be pressured as well. Like,
Exactly.
yeah.
You need something that holds the barons to account. And this is, I always say, look, we're at least 3, 4, 5 years from Runnymede, from the signing of the Magna Carta. The barons are assembling. That's Momus and Lawrence and Tommy and Calvin. The barons are assembling to go, look, we're not happy with the king. What do we do? But you have the yeomen and the noblemen and the serfs pushing the barons. Look, we need this. They can hold to account. And then what you have is that, look, we don't want to bend to your will. You need to bend to ours. And it's not populism, because we're not asking for populism. We're asking self-determination.
Yeah.
We're not asking for mass democracy on absolutely everything. We're asking, and the English system is not a system of divine ordinated rule. We have a divine ordinated mechanism, but our king is a first among equals in England, right? You're a bad king. We have a heavenly mandate. You're out. And if you're not out, we'll get 5,000 men aside till one of you loses a head. That's how it works, right? That's the English way. And I think they need to understand that you always in England, the monarch has to serve the people. Now, we'll give them time, we'll allow them to have mistakes. But ultimately, if you're not serving the people, you're out. And I think this pressure group that is forming, that is visible, and I've said for ages, all you need is a visible display of culture. And a lot of people will alter.
What I will say on the if you allow me, what I will say on the part on the point of monarch, right? So I've been thinking about this for a while, and I've not finalized my thoughts on this, but it's something that has been bothering me. So in the old times, we had the capacity and the cultural will, and there was allowance within the environment where if a king betrayed us, we could back another family, another royal, and get rid of the king, right? That cannot happen now, which gives our king and our current royal family the monopoly over it because they know they cannot be removed. The only way that they can be removed is if we remove the whole system, right? And that's where the problem happens. And we don't want to remove the whole system of constitutional monarchy. But we cannot remove the families anymore, right? Because we have now almost totalitarian armies, and like, because they rule the armies now, right? And before, every baron, every lord had their own army. Now they're not. Now they're not. They don't have that, right? So we can't do certain things anymore to keep the king in check. So the king does not have fear of the people anymore, right? And this is why the king has given the authority to rule just to the people. Oh, I'll be just there. I'll be relaxing. I'll be sunbathing. I don't care about anything. I'll come out and say a few words. So maybe part of like some future conversation has to be that maybe we have to move towards a different form of monarchy. That if we want to keep monarchy, maybe we need some sort of elective monarchy. That we don't have a democracy amongst everyone. Maybe that's where we need democracy if we want a peaceful transition from one king to another, or one royal family to another, if we don't agree with them, right? That the people elect their king now, rather than it being through bloodline.
Could be.
So
I mean, I think if you didn't go that route, you'd have to restore the old system, which then you
yeah,
got.
that's what I'm saying. And we can't restore that because we have more weapons now. We have more destructive weapons now and ability to kill each other many times over more easily, right? So
We
it's
really,
hard to go back.
yeah, we lost the last of that in 1919.
Yeah,
So the last
yeah.
Tommy was, again, this is why you should all come to Northumberland, was the Duke of Northumberland,
Yeah.
just outside of the king's control.
So
But
that's why the only way that we can fight proper wars without extreme bloodshed is through democracy, right? That's where democracy is supposed to play the role. It's sort of like playing on a football pitch rather than playing on the battlefield. Like, that's our football pitch now. That's our sporting pitch now. So we need that. I think so. How we fix it, a part of how we fix it going forward, going ahead, is by introducing that sort of transfer of power into the monarchy. But there should be like extensive rules of who can actually be the king, right? It can't be just some upstart, like it can't be just some that sort of person. They need to have proper lineage towards it, and they need to have proper qualifications. You create a barrier for qualifications or whatever, that they are able to rule, and also that they should be actually active as a head of state and not be a passive head of state that we have, that they should actually lead, and the ministers should be under them, and the prime minister should be the prime minister for the ministers rather than the people, and that we are under the king or the queen. So those sort of things I think so there's a lot of renegotiation that needs to go on around that, because we can't fight the kings anymore.
yeah, I mean, the until Elizabeth, the king was very active. The monarch was very active until Elizabeth, and she didn't really get involved in the affairs of state
Yeah,
at all, which was a first.
yeah.
Reject any bills, and they were the most egregious bills passed against the English people in all of our history. And and she was a lovely woman, I'm sure, but she was a terrible monarch in that sense.
Yeah, yeah. She was very passive, but
Yeah,
she set the tone. In 70 odd years, she set that tone, and that cannot be undone now.
no. Well, if you had big enough
But
testicles,
there's no will. There's no will,
exactly.
right? So,
You had somebody who had the balls.
but you
I
don't.
would just go in and just with a wrecking ball and
Oh, yeah. I would
that's
dissolve
me.
the parliament straight away.
Yeah, I would just walk in. I'd just two,
Off with your
two
heads.
yep, 200 Marines, get in, get out.
Yeah.
But that's just me. I would dissolve the lot,
Hmm.
and just have a system of rule for 25 years until the country regained its national identity again.
But
Um,
that's the thing, like, so we can't choose our leaders anymore, right? So this is not how democracy works. So if you want to enact democracy, you need to be able to choose the head of the state, right? We can't choose the head of the state because we're just choosing transference of administration from one to another to the will of an unelectable person already, right? So, and that's not the king. It's something that sits above the king now, right? Which is not God anymore, which is this the new God, the new globalist order, elite order that we have, right? So we need that power back. We don't need the power back of the parliament, I think. I think so. We need the power back of the monarch to
yes,
be the monarch. And it's time that we need to choose our monarch.
we need to
Yeah.
find. Yeah, we need to do the old English thing, which is this isn't working. Get them out. Put who we want in. And this, ironically enough, Caesar commented on this about the Germanics, and the English retained it, is that they don't have a king. They appoint a worthy leader until they are no longer worthy, and then they appoint another. And
That's what we need to do.
in France, it changed with under Charlemagne to the divine rule of kings. We don't have that in England. And a lot of
Mm,
people mistake that. It's like, hang on. He doesn't rule us. We loan our allegiance to him
mm,
because it is the mechanism that we preserve, not the individual. If they're not worthy, it's out and we
mm,
have a worthy man in. And it'll be interesting to see. I think my gut feeling is there's some shifts that will happen in the next 10 or 15 years on that front.
mm.
We need to kind of,
It would be interesting to see, and I wouldn't mind England having their king, Wales having their king, Scotland having their king, and Northern Ireland having their king. I wouldn't mind seeing that. I think so. There would be more unity if everyone within the kingdom had an equal voice, an equal opportunity to express their heritage and their culture, and not be suppressed by one another. But that's for the British to decide amongst themselves. I think so. Uh, that would be a better way to renegotiate like the terms of the union, right? Rather than one monarch who's actually descended, like who's by heritage, they are monarchs. We don't have any choice from them. they're not they are becoming less and less a representation of the English now, and they're just imposing themselves on the Welsh, on the Scottish and the Northern Irish, and in this new form of how we, like, are trying to rediscover our national heritages and stuff like that. I think so that just doesn't work and just creates animosity. Maybe not, maybe I'm wrong, maybe, like, because people also need to understand, are they more is there loyalty towards the crown, or is there loyalty towards the royal family, right? So there's a difference, I think so, over there. Because I think so, like, what I would say, most people have a loyalty towards the crown itself, right? And they would rather see a strong king or queen inhabit that crown, right, regardless of what family they are from.
Yes.
Like,
Yes. It's not. I mean, you have love for them as individuals, and there is certainly a portion where it's a fandom.
hmm,
Um, you know, but most people I speak to, it is the mechanism and the heritage that the mechanism represents.
yeah.
It's not necessarily the individual. It is because you are supposed to give up your individuality to become the monarch. You're supposed to then become the manifestation of something greater, and it's that.
And also, like, sorry, also, like, we sort of revere people like King Alfred, right? And those who followed him and stuff, these are not of the same lineage as well, right? These are also not the same lineage of William the Conqueror, and all of the others, that we have had different bloodlines as monarchs, different families and at monarchs, and they've done different good things and moved England forward in their own ways, right? We don't have that opportunity anymore. We have just one bloodline, which is which whose will is only to maintain itself rather than to progress the nation, or to maintain the security of the nation. They just want to remain in power, right? And that's a weak monarch, I think so.
Yeah, it's interesting. I watched a program on the bloodlines of the kings
Hmm.
family since Alfred, and I think I'm getting this right. But from the Plantagenet through, we had blood relation until the Hanoverians, and the House of Stuart and everything stopped. That line was gone. The link to Henry VIII and everything
Hmm.
else, Henry VII, and that Hanoverian German bloodlines carried on through to Charles. Now, Charles is actually the rightful heir to Charlemagne.
Hmm.
Um, and however, Diana was the old bloodline, and William is the unification of the two post William the Conqueror um, family houses. He is the
Yeah.
kind of unified king since William.
Yeah, but it 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 matters more than just having a bloodline
Oh no, no,
relation,
I
right?
just
Yeah,
found it.
yeah, no, 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 no. Like, yeah, but what I also mean, like, just not just that the bloodline is different or not, is how your mindset is, right? So we need people of different mindsets. Right now, we're only going to get people progressively of the same mindset of Elizabeth, right? Because that's what she has created, and
Mhm.
she the and she has expressed upon her mindset to the next 4 or 5 generations, and they're going to be molded
Beautiful
in.
person, but yeah, she was
Yeah,
very.
yeah, but uh but of her time, times have changed, right? It's not peaceful times anymore. We
No, no.
don't, right? We have an enemy within that we need to tackle with. How are we going to tackle with an enemy within when we're letting an enemy, an invader mentality to stand at Maple Arch and wave their flag of invasion at us, right? How do we deal with that? With just being passive and just being peaceful, and
No.
saying, "Oh, I can't get involved in politics." Well, hang on, Mr. King. This is your lands. Are
He's
you just going to let people walk over you? Like, enough. Because when they walk over you, they walk over us.
Yeah, it's so that's your specialist subject. We'll come to that in a second. this ties into something I noticed about culture. So around 3 years ago, I started wearing a suit all the time, three-piece suit. I've got tweeds, woolen waistcoats, woolen tie. I tell you, you want to stay warm in winter, get a woolen waistcoat, tweed jacket, and a wool tie. My word, you'll be absolutely cooking. And it was something Scott Mannion said. So I'd already been living this way, and Scott Mannion had said something along the lines of the tweed suit is the Englishman's uniform, it's his armor. And I'd noticed that people, when you dress, it's this thing about, links into to Tommy and you lot making this visible representation of culture every few months in London. When the culture is visible, people alter. And I think the English culture has something quite divine about it. So when it's presented correctly, and it's not tracksuits and turkey teeth. That's not me. Little man bags and stuff. When it's presented properly, people change. Now, I'd noticed people just altered overnight with me wearing a three-piece suit all the time. They became a lot more deferential, a lot more polite. People would, like, in a sense, almost psychologically submit. And I noticed the biggest difference was people from the Middle East.
Mm.
They just would alter immediately and be very polite, very kind, very, like, they wouldn't, it would almost be they go, there's a figure of authority, and they would just alter immediately. And it was quite, because I mix with a lot of people from the Middle East on an almost daily basis, because I work near one of the big passport centers. And they're coming in and out all the time, and you see the difference immediately, that they're just very, very different. And it's like that prestige thing still has weight in their culture. It comes back to this thing of, like, they are a culture that recognizes and respects strength. And it doesn't matter whether you're their friend or their enemy. If you're their strong enemy, there's still oh yeah, hang on, they're quite intimidating. I can't just go in and do as I please there. They will respect it, because that is their mentality, is to look for strength, and to respect strength, because they live by that themselves. And I think we do need stronger, it's a very non-passive way of beginning to rectify this balance, is to have stronger outward cultural expressions.
I mean, there is something to be said about that, but I think so they do it because they value aesthetical value, aesthetical values more, or because I don't see them as spiritual people as well. They're more materialistic in that sense, because their heaven is very materialistic as well. It's about what God can give them in heaven rather than that they can achieve heaven, right? So the peace that they can achieve in heaven, they're not concerned about that. They're concerned about what they can get, the whores and whatever the virgins and whatever that they can get in heaven, right? So that they would value people more aesthetically, if they represent as such, right? But I'm like I have thought about it a bit. I'm on two minds about that, because I also have, so maybe because three-piece suit is not a natural thing for me, right? So maybe that's why I oppose it a little bit. But I don't oppose it in the sense of people shouldn't wear it. I think so that there's different ways of Englishness that are not just within three-piece suit. Like, because there's different English people from different places who express themselves differently, but their nature remains English, right? So I'm more about tackling that spiritual sense of Englishness, that soul of the English, right? If we tie it up with Christianity, well, Jesus never wore a three-piece suit as well. So it's about, like, he represented himself as very simple, and there's nothing simple about a three-piece suit for me. Like, it is extra clothes over extra clothes over extra clothes, right? So it's also not simplistic. It's beautiful to see, and I love three-piece suits as well. But it's sort of, those are the things that are competing in my head when it comes to it, right? So Calvin Robinson talks about that, like, boys wear shirts and jeans, and men wear like suits and stuff. But it's sort of like, do they really, like, I'm in two minds about that as well. It's like, if someone is geared up in a Marines uniform, right? They strike an intimidating look as well. right? If an American is in the cowboy, get up, they also strike as, authoritative within their culture.
Yeah.
So there is something to say, like within the English culture, what is most representative, but maybe that we shouldn't be exclusively for certain things.
Oh no, no,
Maybe.
yeah. I think
Yeah,
what I meant was that we need to not just this. That's how I feel comfortable.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Need to find our outward
Yeah,
cultural.
represent ourselves as English, as authentically English, right? Or the English should represent, or British should represent as authentically British, right? So the Scots wearing the kilts, right? That's authentically Scottish in that sense, and they shouldn't denigrate themselves by wearing tracksuits and stuff. I don't like the English wearing imitating the ghetto culture, or the ghetto black British culture, and wearing their trousers to their knees, right? That is not English. So we can exclude certain things that these does not represent either English nature or English culture, and they should be, put aside, because you can look a lot respectable if you wear clean clothes. You can wear simple clothes, you can wear clean clothes, and how you represent yourself, right, is how you appear. So I think so that has to be said. Like, people need to go back to that there is some strength within expression of these values, or expression of these symbolisms, because they are symbolisms. They make other people show that it's okay to be English, sort of a thing as well.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It always struck me as odd as like kids growing up listening to gangster rap as opposed to Iron Maiden.
Right,
That's
right.
do with you. Steve Harris is awesome. Why doesn't Iron Maiden, man? Bruce Dickinson's amazing.
Yeah,
And I listened to a lot of what you'd call, white man rock music because
yeah.
there was a cultural root. And I can appreciate, I mean, I love classical music. I think that's the peak, but I can appreciate other forms of music, rap music, etc. But I don't have there's no cultural root there for me.
Yeah, I
There's not.
mean, it's also imitating. The thing is, like, because they're imitating a culture, because they're detached from their own culture so much, right? So it's not as if, like, you cannot like rap and you cannot participate in rap and stuff. But why are you doing it? Are you doing it because you like it? That's fine then if you like it. Or are you doing it because you're unknowing of your own roots? So I think so. A lot of it is like, because these people have been left behind, and they have been more impressed, they have been more influenced by a stronger culture, right?
Mm.
Because we have left our culture alone, or left it behind, and people behind along with it, so that they are just assimilating to whatever is acceptable to them, right? Because we have infiltrated their localities where they live, with the foreign cultures, with foreign people, and to be able to survive within them, within those areas, they've had to have some form of assimilation. That's when it's not nothing new. That's what happened when Vikings came along in England, and we left certain parts of the England to fend for themselves. Those people eventually started becoming a bit more Viking, and even to this day they celebrate their Viking roots, like in York, and like in other places in England, or in Scotland, or in Irish, they celebrate those little parts of their Viking roots.
Look, I'm from Newcastle. We're a little bit Viking every Saturday night here.
No, but this is the reason. So if we see it in long term, in 1,000 years time, you know, there might be some Viking rappers, right? If we yeah, exactly. No, no, but you know what I mean? Like, they would be, because we have left those areas to be invaded by another culture, right? And I'm not using invasion as a denigrated word anyways right now, right? I'm just saying that they have been invaded, they have been taken over. It's a fact. They have been taken over by another culture. So those people who have to fend for themselves within those areas have to assimilate and have to find the best of what they can find over there, right? If over time they can assimilate their own to them as well, like the English can assimilate themselves over the other culture, then they can be an amalgamation of what we see now with the Viking celebration, that we might be celebrating Vikings, but we're not living as Vikings anymore.
Yeah, it'll become anglicized. I see that kind of happening. I think, all right, let's dive into your specialist subject then. So I see something happening in the next 5 or 6 years, which is the almost complete rejection of Islamism in the West.
Mm.
I just think it's inevitable.
I would say complete rejection of Islam.
Well, I haven't foreseen that in the next 5 or 6 years.
No. I would say like that's my desire.
All right, right. So the way I see the world is almost like either the best way to explain it is it's either a series of combinations that are just going click, 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 or like
Mm.
dominoes. And I
Mm.
can see they go, oh, okay, you've done something there. You've overplayed your hand. You've revealed yourself to where you are because, the majority of the people in English thought you were just like the people we encountered during the Empire.
Mm.
And you revealed yourself to be something different, which is like a bastardization of that culture. And it's just a matter of time now.
Mm.
Because foreign policy, particularly from the United States, will dictate that in order to trade with the United States, then this stuff needs to be cleaned out. And I just think it's an inevitability. I think reforms to the benefit system will mean that a lot of people will just up and leave. And I think the remnants of those who are left will be happy to be in this country. And I think we will see an Anglicization of those cultural remnants, like the Viking thing that you
Mm.
spoke. I think there will be an integration over a period of 100
But
years.
they have to leave. Like they have to leave their old ways.
Yeah,
So Vikings didn't amalgamate and didn't get anglicized until they were baptized,
they stopped raping and pillaging. Yeah.
right? And until they actually became Christian. Eh, until they actually became Christian as well. So this is what I like. We have to have that mind that the only way that we can reform the Muslims within this country is when they reject Islam and either accept secularism or Christianity.
I think it'll be a secularist thing in whatever happens. I mean, I have this thing in the future where my gut instinct tells me, I've read a lot of prophecy. The Book of Revelation is one of my favorite books. I'm very much linked to the lineage and the mythology of Cuthbert,
Mm.
and I think there will be a divine revelation which will alter the world's spiritual understanding. I think the best way I can explain it, if I can put it into words, is that Moses came to do two things. He came to establish a culture of salvation for the Jewish people, and he came to lay a foundation for Christ. Christ has done two things. He has come to establish a culture of salvation for the Western man, and he has laid a foundation for the Creator, which I think will be the next divine hand that's shown in the world. I think
Mm.
it's like progression, and I think the Creator himself, we didn't necessarily see the hand of the Creator with the Jews. We saw Moses, but we saw the hand of his son, or we saw the hand of Jesus with Christ himself. I think the next manifestation will be something even greater, because you can see there is an evolution occurring within humanity on a conscious and spiritual level.
But some would argue that that would be the day of judgment, when God reveals himself. So
But the day of judgment is not the end;
yeah,
it's the beginning.
yeah.
And I think my gut instinct tells me we'll see this in our life, right? That's just my pure gut instinct coming from my years of deep spiritual contemplation and study. I genuinely think, well, I'll see that before I die. And I think at that point, it's almost like there'll just be oh, we have to be like this. And
Mm.
I think that'll just be it. And humanity will completely change. But I think before that, we have to clean house. And it's all these destructive elements that really, Islamism spawned out of this marriage between Islam and communism in the 50s and 60s. The Palestinians were studying Chinese communism. The other Middle Easterners were studying Russian communism.
Yeah.
And this is where this bastardization has come out of, and it's inherently evil.
Yeah.
You know, and it's done things that even the Ottomans wouldn't do. The Ottomans would bring out these tenets at times of advantage, at times of political or militaristic advantage. They would say, well, okay, we can do this because it says we can. Okay, let's go and do that. But this is a
No, but
daily.
the Ottomans served as a moderation to the original, right? So we can't measure Islam by what Ottomans did and what they didn't do, because they weren't the keepers of it, right? So if you want to measure it, then measure it by what Muhammad did, right? And Muhammad was a lot more brutal. Muhammad was much more like Islamist. Muhammad was much more a jihadist. So Islamism or Islamization of things is actually not a bastardization of Islam. It is actually a reformation of Islam. So we are actually just seeing the real head of Islam under the Ottoman Empire, because they were more Europeanized than any other caliphate. Uh, they could tread the both worlds, right? And they moderated themselves to not be extreme. So I think so. These people who we see as radicals, they're not radicals. It's just they're adhering to their religion properly, and Islam is a radical religion, right? So this is why I say the rejection is not of Islamism. The rejection has to be of Islam, because if we just reject this form of Islamism, we'll get rid of it, and then will come another form of Islamism down the years, unless we reject Islam as a whole. So that's my view of it. And I think so it's people need to read about the life of Muhammad, what he did in the early years and what followed him as well. His personal life, his personal actions, his personal beliefs, sort of a thing. And they will realize that this religion, this ideology masquerading as a religion, is evil in its purest form.
So I think that anything that will happen there will happen later. I think right now our biggest issue will be to get the terrorist sympathizers out of the West, and I think that will happen. I think there'll be a portion who are physically removed. I think there'll be a portion who will voluntarily just say, "Well, look, it's not."
Well, that needs to happen. That needs to happen anyways. But the thing is, like, when that starts happening, the actual Islamists will start hiding and start lying and start, we won't be able to get rid of them, and
I
they'll live to die another day.
don't think it'll be easy at all.
No,
I
it would be impossible. We won't be able to remove them. Under our current laws, we will not be able to remove the actual Islamists because they have never revealed themselves. Their actual thought leaders and stuff, they don't reveal themselves. And it's very easy to claim they can lie about it. It's allowed within the religion to lie tactfully about certain things, and under our laws, we'll have to allow them. So we have to actually amend certain laws, um, or completely break our relationship with Islam, stop allowing Islam to exist before that happens. But I know what you mean. The thing is, our current laws will not allow certain things to happen, which is why I think this is a fight that we are just delaying, and we will just be able to delay under our current democratic ways. We will only delay this fight, but we're not even doing that. We're not even doing that.
I think the laws will change. I think I see it as an inevitability. I don't think they can stay as they are, but I don't think they'll change under the Labour government. But I don't think the Labour government will last very long either.
I don't think so. They will change even under the Reform Party. I think so. Something bad has to happen before they change, and this is my fear.
Oh no, I think something bad is going to happen.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I don't want to fearmonger people. I don't think it can happen otherwise. I think my instinct is that we will see, because look, they burnt America to get Trump out last time, to make
Hmm.
everyone think that it was Trump that was the problem. They will burn the West this time, and they'll
Hmm.
use terrorists in the West who've been imported to do that. That is the beginning of the expulsion of those terrorists, because I don't think that mechanism, that globalist deep state mechanism, is strong enough anymore to
No,
sustain.
they're already here now, right? So they have been here for a very long time now. It's just that they need to be mobilized and activated now, right? People say like, oh, more are coming. Those more are coming don't matter. The actual core, they have enough to cause chaos, mayhem, and destruction. They have enough.
Yeah. But I think that that has to happen to show how rotten, naive, and corrupt the political establishment is. So this will all foster into what I see as a huge, I've talked about for ages, is the restoration of England. Um, the this the system almost has to collapse. It has to be shown to be this rotten, maggot-ridden thing that it is. And there are too many people who are kind of still thinking it's all rainbows and unicorns. And that has to break. And I think Labour will be the black pill for a lot of people. I think there is trouble coming, but I can't see how we can avoid it. I think we have to plan for what happens at the end of that trouble, which is the restoration of the culture, which is the rebirth of the nation, the rebuilding, probably of the West, in some sense, because I think we're in such a, maybe a few years ago, I said, look, this might have been averted, but I don't think it can be now. I think
No.
this is the chart we're on. And I just,
And I think so. Appeasing of any sort is just a folly. And this move of Reform Party to appoint a chairman is it's a folly. I think so. I know what they're trying to do. I know what they're trying to do, but it's not going to work because, as I said, like this needs to. We don't have to be exclusionary completely of people, but we do not need to have certain people within the change that we're trying to make, right? Because they will resist it from within, to their own ill interest, if you like. It won't be to their own best interest, but they will have dividing loyalties, and they will do it. And this is why I've been disappointed at Reform, because I think it's just another another form of classical liberalism which is trying to maintain itself, siding with the conservatives when it has to, and just saying, oh no, we can still maintain our old ways without confronting this new enemy properly, right? This is the problem that I see. This is why I say like people actually do not have any proper representation within politics, because everyone is trying to save themselves rather than thinking about like we can't be saved. It's not us that we need to try to save. It's our grandchildren that we need to try to save. And to save our grandchildren, we have to do certain things, certain uncomfortable things. We need to say certain uncomfortable things, and we have to fight certain uncomfortable fights where we will have to sacrifice. We should be willing to sacrifice. We should stop trying to save ourselves.
it's interesting. The thing with Nigel and the chairman, I forget his name.
Zia Yusuf.
Yeah, Yusuf. Yeah. I think that's money. I think he's just offered him a load of
Yeah,
money.
but that shows you, right? That shows you the kind of leadership.
Yep.
That's what, because what pisses me off as well is free market capitalists thinking that they are conservatives or they are the actual voice of conservatives, right? When they're not. You're just a free market capitalist, right? Your money is your god. God is not your god. So they might say certain things, but they don't understand the cultural problem because they are not accepting of it within their own hearts, right?
I think when I saw that, I thought, all right, okay, I think there's two things going on there. And then I thought, that's going to come to a crossroads. That's going to come to a
Yeah.
point where Zia is asked to make a choice.
Mm,
It's almost like, oh, I don't have to worry about that because that's just going to take care of itself.
it
Uh,
won't.
and he'll either choose the path that you seek or he'll leave.
Yeah.
And I can't see it working any other way.
No.
But I think yeah. It's going to be interesting. And I think we can, with this group that is being formed, that's being coalesced, that you've been asked to be a part in, I think that gives us that pressure group.
Mm.
Because nothing happened, and I'm not laying all of the credit at Tommy. I don't think Tommy and the
He
people
doesn't want it to be a Tommy movement as well.
exactly, but it's just I think that the conversations that Nigel had had the week before with people on the street, and then seeing the passion for the people, and I think he just thought, right, it's time, it's time.
Mm.
And look. I've always said you use Nigel. You know,
Yeah.
if Nigel wants to, right, fine, but there are conditions. It is
Mm,
not unconditional. Our trust is hard won, but easily
mm.
lost. If you start operating for yourself and not us, you're out, and we'll
Yeah.
get. And it has to be, that is the English way. It has to be
Mm,
that way. You're either worthy or you're out. And it's not about dear leader. It's not hero worship. It is you represent us, therefore we'll give you everything we've got as long as you're representing us in the
mm,
correct and you're being honest and truthful. If you're lying, you're out. And the same will happen with Trump in the States. If it
mm.
turns out that it was all fake, you'd be out.
Yeah.
Wait, we don't want you. You've betrayed us.
Mm,
But I think we have to have that mentality. It's not about Nigel. It's about somebody who just becomes the figurehead of something that is actually the majority of the people. And it's interesting when you're saying, left and right don't matter. Um, you're a centrist. You're not a left and right. You're someone who just, you're a centrist. You see, you have a care for people who sit either side of the aisle. And most people, the majority, overwhelming 80% of the population, sit somewhere around that center point.
mm.
The ideologues that are at the side is the ideologues that are extreme.
Yeah.
The ideologues are always going to be extreme, but they what you need to get back to is a point where they just grumble in their pint on a
Yeah.
Friday pub, and the majority of the country just get on and live, and that's
Yeah.
what we're back to. And it's like politics is, it's not even, we're not even on the right anymore. It's like we've all been dragged over here.
Mm.
It just needs to get back.
This is the reason why I don't like political parties, because they don't let you be centrist, right? This is the reason why I don't like politics itself. Even though I talk so much about politics these days, I don't like politics itself. This is why I'm in favor of monarchy, and I have been for a very long time, you know. But I'm in favor of a monarchy which is actually acts like a monarchy, like which the head of state is active as a monarch, but doesn't mean that they are subverting the will of the people, that they are working with the people. That's why my most favorite form of monarchy would be elective monarchy. That's what I'm in favor for. A head of state sitting there for a certain, not till the end of their life, but a period of 30 to 40 years, with a set of a set of measures that they can't be a tyrant, because if they are tyrant, then they can be ousted. And half of their term is them grooming the next generation of leaders, and like, let's say 10 to 20 candidates or whatever, them actually bringing them up, and after their term, then we choose out of those 10 or 20, right? So our choices also have to be limited. We can't just pick someone up and just say, oh, be our leader, because they might be saying things right now which might look good to us, right? But if they don't know how to fight, then they would lead the army astray just because they said the right things. If they don't know how to govern, then they'll lead us to a bad path. They'll sell us out to any globalist ideology and stuff. So we need from a set of people, and those set of people do not have to be like royal or anything. They just need to be British for a very long time. They need to have a lineage of Britain within them, and they need to be groomed for the right purposes, as well. So I'm much in favor of that, which I've never actually, I don't think so I've ever said that to anyone. This is the first time I'm actually telling anyone how I actually feel about politics and stuff, which is why I have such a hard time backing one political party. Whether be it SDP or UKIP or Britain First or Reclaim or whatever, like, I support all of them because I don't care about any of them. Because I want the actual elective monarchy to exist in England, right? So I'm probably the opposite of republic and the constitutional monarchs in this country.
I'll back whoever serves my purpose.
Yeah.
I'd rather vote for a leader than a party.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, but you don't, right? So right now, we don't vote for leaders and stuff. We don't vote for, because the reason why you vote for a leader is not because of the personality of the leader, it's because of the vision of the leader, right? So
Yeah.
we're not voting for vision anymore. We're voting for a political party, right? And the political party serves itself first. It doesn't serve the public first. It has to secure itself. And that's not their fault. That's how they made up. right? If a political party does not take care of itself first, then will never come into power. Reasons why SDP is not in power, because they don't care about themselves more than the public. Commendable to them, but it's hard for someone like that to come into power then, right? This is how the mechanism works, which is why I'm not in favor of like I think every local representative should be an independent, and they should all independently serve the king or the queen, and that king and the queen should be elected. That's my political philosophy. So not many would agree with it. So
Oh, it's certainly not a bad outlook. I think we just need to see. I think as long as there are mechanisms to enforce the will of the people, and I can't see the shift that's happened in the last 10 years in humanity. If it doesn't serve the people, I don't think it'll last. I think that's just the way it's going. You can see it. I think if you're not for the people, you're gone within a matter of,
hmm.
and which is why I do think the mechanisms in the next 5 or 6 years that have sustained for the last 250 are just going to start crumbling. You can already see it. It's just it is crumbling, just no one's calling it out. But I do think it's going to collapse. So, where do you see the country in 10 years?
In even a worse shithole, I think so. Unfortunately, because the thing is, like, no matter what I say, like whatever ideas I give, right, there's no environment to pick them up and implement them, right? Our king is never going to take care of those things. Our king is going to die within the next 10 years, within the next 5 years, probably, as far as I see it. And then the next king that will come in William, he's just going to be a continuation of that. He's just going to modernize the monarchy more. He's not going to do anything useful.
Modernize means walkify, restrict power.
Yeah, yeah. Um, I see Labour will still be in power because people will not wake up. The next election will be won by Labour again. Because what's happening, because I can see it now, what's happening, right? So they've gone so far left that now that they're giving even a little bit of morsel back to the people, people are taking it as a win. Even people like J.K. Rowling and stuff like that, right? So, oh yes, like they're not going to give puberty blockers to the kids, right? Yeah, but they mean to do it. They're just not doing it now, right? And people will give them support in 2029 because they would think that they have scaled back their mania, right? People will think, oh, we have won, and we can mend Labor, right? But Labor is just biding its time. That's what they're doing. They're saying, okay, let's scale back few things, let's gain back the support of the people on the other side of the argument, and then in 2029 when we come back, then we can implement certain things within the law. So I
See,
think so 10 years time we will still be under Labor. I do agree with Hitchens with that. The foundation that they're going to lay now politically and in legislations and stuff will enable them to come. So I think so 10 years time will be when we'll be prepared to actually every single person to realize that either either fight or flee, you know.
see, because I can't quite see, I can't see them being in power past 2027.
They will be. I'm
No,
telling you, they will be.
I don't think they will. I think it'll be out. So I can see external international events escalating to such a degree that, like, let's be honest, I'm sure they're all lovely people and you'd have a lovely time in the pub with them, but I think it's the lowest IQ government I've ever seen in England.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I don't think they're going to be able to handle
They're
what's.
not lovely people. I would never have a pint with them.
I don't think they're going to be able to handle what's about to happen globally. And I think they're going to collapse. I don't think, and I think they'll be out under international and domestic pressure by 2027. I think there'll be a snap election.
I think so. They'll do what Tony Blair did. They will follow someone else. They will ride the wave of someone else, and they will survive.
Nonsense,
These
it's not
these
there.
people, I'm telling you, they will be there. But
So
hopefully, I'm hoping they're not there. Right? I'm hoping what you're saying is true.
yeah. So if you look at it, how I see it is, when Blair came in, the international order was very, very different, and Blair just followed the international order very much. That international order is collapsing, like very, very. The whole world's lurching to the center and to the right, and
I don't think so. I don't think that it's in majority. I think so. That's an illusion.
not yet, not yet, but it will. The EU will collapse within the next 5 or 6 years.
But that's why I'm saying in 10 years is when we're going to be in complete shithole. And
But I don't,
that's when it will swing. It will start swinging.
you know, they did what they did. He's going to try and do what Blair did.
No,
Fine.
yeah.
But Blair did that with a lot of money. There's no money
Hmm.
left. We have no money. The economy is already crashed. So I don't think this is what I mean. I
They
think
won't care.
it, and I think it's just going to collapse completely. And I think the people will just say enough. And I think they will blackpill a lot of hardcore Labour supporters. Look, where I live has been Labour forever. I don't think they've ever had a Conservative MP here.
Hmm.
Conservatives get like 1,000 votes in the local area out of like 50 or 60,000. In the latest election, Reform got half what Labour got, and that's unheard of up here.
Hmm.
And then if Reform and Conservatives were together, they would have beat Labour right across the north of England.
But this is the thing, like there's a lot of ifs and buts for it to happen. So obviously it will change, right? So I am saying like if those ifs and buts don't come about, right? So a lot of things need to happen. Reform actually needs to do the local action, local work, local democracy, which I don't see them doing. Tory party actually need to merge with Reform. Alternatively, if Reform is not going to be a political party, I don't see that happening as well. I see both of these things not happening. I see a Tory party choosing a different leader and getting behind that leader, and I see Reform Party failing to integrate into Conservatives, and Farage losing all his interest within it and just dissolving the Reform Party and not standing again. These are the reasons why I'm saying
Yeah, no,
why in 10 years time.
yeah.
But I'm hoping I'm wrong, right? So I'm hoping upon hope that I'm wrong, because that also signals to me that the fight is going to become different, and like it won't even be cultural fight anymore. It will actually have to develop into actual fight, right? Actual rebellion, actual civil wars. It will turn into into that mess. So but I till that time I want people to sort of regroup, reform, and think about it, that we are going to have some form of suffering. But what do we want out of that suffering? What are we suffering for? Because if we're suffering for nothing, then Britain will cease to exist. The soul of Britain will cease to exist. It will still be a land of people, but the people will not know themselves, right? If there's a purpose to our suffering, then people will suffer for it.
And
If
this is
there's no purpose of a suffering, people will leave. And I already see a lot of intellectual capital leaving already in Britain. It's something that I'm thinking about a lot as well myself. But obviously the love of this country keeps me here. But it's a sensible thing to think for people, especially people who are around my age and stuff, where they have a lot more to give, a lot more to achieve in life still, being held back, and I already see that happening so much with so many people. So yeah, I think so. Like maybe at this moment, while I'm talking with you, I'm very black pilled. Maybe it's really hot right now, and I just want to go out in the garden. but I, but I just, it is just such a sense of despair, because everyone is. It seems like everyone is just after themselves. Unless I see people leaving that mentality, unless I see people
you also
being
live near the cancer.
British. Sorry?
You also live near the cancer. You
Yeah,
live right outside the gates of Hades,
yeah,
like you live next door to Sauron.
yeah. But
Uh,
that's where you have to defend, right? Otherwise, the whole of the West will fall.
like wearing the ring, it seeps into you. So this is why I was saying
Mm,
before we got talking, all of you need to have 2 weeks of the year up in Northumberland. It will regenerate you. Look, this
yeah,
is the Angles landed, right?
mm,
This is the stronghold of the Angles. This is
yeah,
the English. Down south is the Saxons. They were different
mm,
people.
mm,
Um, Alfred named the culture after the Angles, and he took their language and he took their customs because he saw them as being spiritually superior. They're very coarse, very plain, but there's something very, very spiritual about the people up here. And I'm not saying the
mm,
other parts of England don't have it, but this is still 93% plus English.
mm.
You will not, this will regenerate you. This will rejuvenate you. We have healing waters up here. Rothbury is incredible. Cragside House is one of the most extraordinary things you'll ever see. Bamburgh Castle is the old seat of Lancelot, right? You got Cuthbert, who meditated on the Farn Isles there, a grumpy old monk. His body hasn't decayed, sat in Durham Cathedral. Like, this is an unusual part of the world. From here, you get the coal that changed the entire world. You get
Hmm.
the steam engine, you get the locomotive, you get the bridges, the first coal railway track. Like, this region changed the world. The first Hollywood film studio was started by two people from here. The Washington family come
Yeah.
from this.
This is why I desperately want the English capital to be moved away from London.
Yes, it should be up north.
Exactly. It should be York
Yes.
or around there. Like it shouldn't be, because that down south is not a representation of England anymore, right?
No,
It's in pockets, little pockets here or there, but it's not as a whole. As a whole, it's not like, I know King Alfred was in Wessex. He was a man of Wessex, but we need a new, King Alfred right now, and that King Alfred will not be around Wessex and stuff. The roles have been reversed now.
yes, yeah. So yes, but what I'm saying is you all need to come up and take a break from that camp. This
Yeah,
this is not the Shires. This is not Hobbiton. This is Rohan.
yeah.
This is up here. This is Rohan. You
Mm.
need to come, and you all need to come and just detach and soak it back in. You need it. You need to replenish the soul, because it's going to be a long fight. And where you look, I worked in London for 2 years. It is cancerous. And it's got nothing to do
Yeah.
with people. There's something spiritual there, metaphysical, that's not good.
There's something lacking over there, and this is why, like, I myself want to, well, want to move, want to get out of here and stuff like that, but all, like, life has different roots sometimes. But I,
Nice.
I do I do I do believe, like, the actual England is up there, because when I go to York or those places up north, you feel it as soon as you, like, get out of the train station. You just feel it. It's like, yeah, I'm in England. This is England.
It's rejuvenating.
Yeah.
And the further up you go, man, that coastline, even on the train, it's possibly one of the most beautiful stretches of coastline in the whole of the UK. It's incredible. But it's just, it'll reset your heads, telling you.
Mm.
And you go visit Attic Castle. Harry Hotspur, man. This guy like frightened off an entire section of the French army just by running and screaming at them.
Mm.
Right? It's the only man to slap the king and live. This is like, but that's how the Geordies are, right? That's how
Yeah.
we are, that sort of passionate. But it'll ignite the king spirit. It'll rejuvenate you all. And yeah, I think it's important. It's important that we have that spiritual retreat.
Yeah. I think so. We need that regrouping anyways. We need like a way to rethink everything, rethink our values, rethink where we are, where we have been, where we come from, and where we want to go. Right?
Yeah.
There has to be a whole, like, forum, a symposium, like a moment for it to happen. Right? It won't happen in a day. It won't happen in a year. It would happen in years. And this is why, like, I don't think so that is going to happen as an expression within politics. Right. This needs a different set of, like, sort of
Yes.
intellectual basis.
Outside of that, but that informs precious politics.
Yeah, it's sort of like, I don't know if you've heard of the Institute of England. That there's a group of people that are starting it. They have a Substack right now. People should go check it out. Institute of England is called. This is what they're trying to do, and this is why I'm in favor of them as well. Like, because they're trying to create that intellectual space where we can rethink everything and what it means to be English, you know, expression of England itself. So I think so we need those spaces. Yeah, I think so there has to be a whole national moment for that. And for like, this is where new media is allowing to happen. This is where we can have these conversations without being censored by the mainstream media. So yeah, I definitely believe that that needs to happen. Otherwise, people will, like how I am feeling right now, will be exponentially, it will just go up. It will just increase exponentially
Yeah,
to the
black pill,
point
man.
of black pilled in
Yeah.
in in such a way that, because I am you seen my persona on Twitter, right? That is me actually. Myself. I don't pretend to be someone else. I always look for the light, right? I'm always trying to give people hope because I don't want people to be black pilled, but I'm myself becoming black pilled, right?
You need to come up north, man. You need to come up
Yeah.
north.
But as I'm saying, it will exponentially increase so much in people, even in someone like myself who is aware of it and guards himself against it all the time, to a point where they will just leave.
Oh, it creeps, man. That thing coming out of London creeps.
Yeah,
It's even if you'd have to be quite resilient and incredibly spiritually disciplined to not let it creep.
yeah,
Seen it firsthand. It does. It's not
yeah.
nice.
But the problem as well is you can't abandon it as well.
No, no,
Abandoning London means like you abandoning England as well. So
I think they need to dig up Marx's grave and burn his bones. I think that's what they need to do. It's something not good, man, and I think it's him. Um, it's just, yeah, it's not good at all. But yes, look, if it goes the way I see, you come to my house and we'll have a party, right? If it goes the way you say, I'll come to your house and we'll drown ourselves in whiskey, okay?
yeah, rum. I have
Yes,
heard rum.
yes. But look, I think whatever it is, we are we're all children of the divine, and England is all cultures are divine manifestations, and England's probably one of the last great visible divine manifestation cultures. I think we'll be okay. I think there's a lot of darkness and difficulty to come, and I think we should just be ready for that. Um, but I think there is more national pride and sentiment than I think polls currently show.
Mm,
The people on the street, it's there. And I interact with the public daily. It is there. I just think they're lacking something to hold. And I don't think Nigel was in the race long enough. And I don't think he showed quite enough, probably
mm,
in the race long enough, hadn't had time, maybe, hopefully. But I think if somebody does show that, then I think it's game over for the current established global establishment in England.
yeah,
Just a matter of time.
yeah. But we haven't seen the counter yet, the establishment's counter yet,
I think
which
we've
we will see.
Yes, we will see it. Like this rally in July might be the last.
Hmm. That's
Uh,
the thing. So yeah,
I think it'll terrify them.
yeah.
But then it might be that it happens in other parts of the country instead.
They will come for him. They will come for Tommy.
I
Yeah,
think he knows that as well. Um, brave man.
yeah.
Brave. But I think we have to know that it's not down to one man.
Oh yeah, this is why he's trying to create the movement where it's not about him. But we also know that he is key.
He knows that as well. It's been wonderful to see him change, though.
Hmm.
I mean, I only really became aware of him just before he got sent down.
Hmm.
Reporting, and I contacted him at this time and just said, I really don't know who you are, and I don't know much about what you've said, but this is horrendous. And I just had this overwhelming feeling at the time. It was like complete shivers down the spine, hairs up, everything.
Hmm.
And I just thought the whole country's going to stand with this man one day.
Yeah.
I could feel it. It was so visceral.
Hmm.
And it's like you're watching the divine manifest through this guy. And he's not perfect. Don't have to be.
No.
Um, Richard the Lionheart wasn't perfect.
Hmm.
And none of the Henrys were perfect, you know.
Alfred wasn't perfect as well.
Alfred, no, none of them. It's not, they're not supposed to be. They're supposed to be the man who's chosen and puts his own self-interest to one side for the benefit of the nation, even if it's just momentarily.
Hmm.
Chosen for that moment. And it all manifests and it all goes like that to that moment. Like you can see Trump's life is now heading towards this almost biblical
Hmm.
moment. Where everything he's done in his life is leading up to this period of selflessness within his life. And I think Tommy's is something similar. Probably not on the same scale, but you can see that his life is pushing him towards this point.
Hmm.
It's okay. That is the moment. That is why it was all about this.
Hmm.
And you can see it with other figures too, getting, like people like Lawrence have been forced into this. Calvin to a certain extent. Even yourself, kind of, it's almost like history's called you and you haven't really had much of a choice.
Yeah, I feel like that. Whatever I say, whatever I do, I don't feel like I have a choice. Some people say, "Oh, you're brave in saying." I was like, I'm not. Like, I just don't have a choice. I don't think so. I have a choice. I have to say it. And sometimes my wife asks me as well, like, are you sure about certain things, right? Are you going to be safe? What will happen if they put you in prison? Like, and stuff like that. I say, I don't know. I just don't have a choice. I don't feel like I have a choice. I have to.
Yeah, there's certain things that just you look at your kids and you go, I've got to do this. I can't not.
Yeah.
Or you look at your nation and go, well, they're my kin. Like I feel my
Yeah.
kin. I have to do something. I can't sit back and do nothing because then
Mm,
I'm culpable. So no, I totally get it. And look, I think we all appreciate it too. Like the the censorship now is slightly better than it was 4, 8, 10 years ago, but there was nobody speaking up for anybody. You couldn't. So I think anybody, I'm always grateful to anybody who's kind of put their own self-interest to one side and come out and spoke on behalf of the common man.
mm,
It's not necessarily about whether they're English or not English or this or that. It's about humanity. It's about common humanity, which fundamentally the whole world does share, but it's all got twisted and broken. We do share this common universal value of common humanity.
hmm.
It's been lost. And we need to, the majority, 80%, 70% of the world are begging for this to come back.
Yeah, we need to reclaim it.
Yes, we do. We do. And we shall, Momus, we shall, because we are one and many. That's the thing.
Yes.
They are many and few.
Hmm.
So, yes. So, listen, it's been absolutely wonderful to talk to you.
Yes,
Uh,
you're keeping me away from sun. I need to get some sun.
yes, go and water your roots. I, I'm an Englishman. I need the opposite. I need it. But yes, it's been wonderful. And hopefully we'll do this again in the future.
Yes, we will.
Yeah, thank you, Momus. Thank you.
Thank you.